Good afternoon, good morning, greetings everybody, wherever you're joining us from across the US, North America, and well beyond. We've got over 700 registrations for today's Destination Decisions edition. So I'm just going to pause for 20, 30 seconds. We'll just let a few more people join us, and then we'll kick off what's going to be a really information-packed session. Thank you. Greetings again, everybody. We're going to be jumping into our annual Destination Decisions edition powered by the State of the American Traveler. For around 20 years, that's 2 decades, we've been running these educational and thought leadership webinars with our very good friends at Future Partners. This annual edition, which we've been doing for well more than a decade, focuses on how travelers decide where to go. The destination decision, the all-important part for destination organizations and for tourism businesses of all types. So today we're joined by a truly all-star panel. My very good friend, Erin Francis Cummings, President and CEO of Future Partners, will be presenting the very latest research on first traveler sentiment, then looking at the destination decision, and we've got some first hot off the press research around off-season dispersal travel we'll be sharing with you today. And then our destination leaders panel, we're delighted to be joined by Carol-Anne Ouellette, who's Director of Tourism for the main Office of Tourism, Heath Dillard, President and CEO of Visit Greenville, South Carolina, and Racine Freedy, who's President and CEO of Glacier Country in Montana. So we've got a city, we've got a region, we've got a state, very different perspectives on what is a critical topic today, how to drive off-season and dispersal marketing. So as I mentioned, we'll jump first into the research, looking at the latest insights from the State of the American Traveler. We'll then go to the panel discussion to talk about off-season and dispersal marketing. We're going to have a short presentation from Carol-Anne, Heath, and Racine, and then we'll jump into questions, including audience questions. So please put in your contributions to the Q&A and any relevant comments, suggestions, or examples that you want to share on this topic. So and a quick reminder, we have all of the slides from today, a recording of the webinar, and other related resources will be available both on the Miles and the Future Partners site. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Erin Francis Cummings. Erin, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome if you've just joined us. As Chris shared, we are going to be digging into the question essential to our beautiful industry we work in: how do travelers decide where to go? So this latest edition of the State of the American Traveler definitely has some insights into that. Once again, my name is Erin Francis Cummings, and I'm the President and CEO of Future Partners. And for those of you unfamiliar with Future Partners, our team provides market research that unlocks opportunities powered by insight, shaping strategies for destination leaders that win them hearts, minds, and market share, which in 2026, as I'll show you, is as difficult as ever, and obviously as important as ever. And we bring the future of travel within reach to our industry, so making sure that you're positioned to get there first. Quick note on how the data that I'll be sharing with you is collected. The State of the American Traveler is a monthly tracking survey of adult American travelers. We collect over 4,000 completed surveys per wave. It is nationally representative. The data in today's presentation is from 2 different waves of the State of the American Traveler, one fielded January 16th through 25th, and one February 17th through March 3rd. The confidence interval is plus or minus 1.55%. I do want to acknowledge some context of the environment that we were serving. And so on February 22nd, the State Department issued an updated travel advisory for Jalisco, Mexico. And then on February 28th, conflict with Iran began to escalate. So that was in the background, and that second wave of survey data. Also at that time, headlines were hitting about TSA staffing shortages. Obviously, those have significantly increased right now. So the latest findings on how these and others will be impacting American travel sentiment will be published when we do our monthly webinar on April 8th. So be sure to sign up for that, and you can get the latest on how those events may be impacting you. But what we'll be covering today, I'll start with current travel sentiment and how that's framing destination decisions, then dig into what motivates trips and drives destination choice. And then from there, we'll look at where those decisions get influenced, so the media and tools that travelers are using. And then I'll close with a profile of two traveler types that many of you want to know about, and those are the off-season travelers and the dispersal travelers. So let's get going. Before we look forward, though, let's take a quick look back to 2016. 10 years ago, we were asking a lot of these same questions, and the answers look both similar and pretty different. So back in 2016, print resources were still really widely used for travel planning. Airbnb was just emerging. Now it's a staple. But back in 2016, our headline was that destinations were poised for success. There was a lot of reason for hope. I'll be dropping a few of these 2016 flashbacks throughout what I'm sharing with you today, just to show how things have stayed the same and how things have changed. So we're starting with current sentiment, because before you can understand where travelers want to go, you understand how they feel about traveling at all. And right now, the post-pandemic years, travel has really maintained its status as a prioritized experience, with the average number of trips planned steadily increasing each year since 2022. And this strong travel demand really offers destinations a great opportunity. So let's start with this chart. Every year, again, since the pandemic, we see the average number of trips that Americans say they have planned that's climbed. So it was at 2.9 leisure trips in 2022. We're now at 4 trips average in 2026. 31.7% of travelers say they have 5 or more leisure trips planned for the year. That's the highest it's been in the post-pandemic era, and is now back to 2016 levels. So the appetite for getting out there is genuinely growing. And it's not just trip frequency, it's spend. The average annual travel budget has gone from $4,100 in 2022 to now $6,556. Our 38-month average is $4,769. So right now we're about $2,000 above that baseline. And here's the excitement for travel sentiment score. So we use a 0 to 10 scale. American travelers are scoring their enthusiasm for travel at 8.3 on that scale. And that's been remarkably stable for the last 2+ years. So whatever has been going on in the news cycle over these last couple of years, travelers still show a genuine excitement to travel. And I would say that enthusiasm that they're still showing is really all of your canvas to work with. 6 in 10 American travelers say leisure travel is a high priority for their spending in the next 3 months. Only 1 in 4 say it's a low priority. So when travel is competing with lots of other types of entertainment and self-improvement for wallet and budget, this finding that it's a top spending priority for 60%, that's a really good place for all of us to be. And this chart tells the story of resilience. Travel spending prioritization did dip at the end of last year, which some of you may or may not have felt in your metrics, but it has bounced back, and now we're at one of the highest readings in the last 4 years. Here's the nuance, though. I'm sure you've been hearing about this. Strong overall demand doesn't mean everyone is feeling equally good. Financial anxiety is real. It is uneven. Not all travelers are in the same financial headspace, and that makes destination choice sort of matter to them even more. So you're going to see a lot of travelers being more deliberate about their spending, and really more deliberate even in the choice of the destination that they go. And so as a reminder, you really have to give them the compelling reason to choose you. When we ask travelers to look ahead and assess their own household finances, optimism is running below the 4-year average. So it's at 45.5%. So just below the average of 46.6%. So, it's a small but interesting signal about being more cautious than they perhaps have been in recent years. Fears about a recession, those spiked dramatically in the spring of 2025 when there were tariffs. So it was almost at 57%. Those fears have come down since then. We're at 40.4%, so lower than the peak, but still higher than we were through most of 2024. So this means travelers are keeping an eye on the economic headlines, even as they are planning trips. And we specifically asked travelers whether they're being careful with their money right now because of recession concerns. And 60.7% currently say that, yes, indeed they are. That is at the highest level that we've recorded since we started asking this question. But as you saw, the good news is being careful doesn't mean not traveling. At least we haven't seen that yet. Again, I'll keep saying this. It just means there's a more consciousness about where their money goes, and destination choice is going to matter a lot. Some counterbalance, though, to the caution data. So despite financial anxiety, 35% say that right now, the present is a really good time to spend on leisure travel. So it's a lot of active, ready to book travelers out there. They are motivated and they're looking to you for reasons to choose you. And we'll get more deeper into that in just a minute. Zooming out to our time series on this from 2022 until now, the good time to spend on travel sentiment has been remarkably stable over the last several months. So hovering in that mid-30s range, we don't feel like there's really been a serious deterioration. And then when we look at the months people have trips planned in, we see that demand is strong all the way through the rest of the calendar year. Obviously, summer is peak time, but only 12% say they have no trips at all. So 88% already have leisure trips planned for the year. And for summer travelers specifically, 34% expect to spend more than they did last summer, while only 12% expect to spend less. So that momentum is pointing up, and it's a good environment to be marketing into. And the largest single budget group for people who have trips planned this summer is in that $2,500 to $4,999 range. So about a quarter of summer travelers fall in that. Average total expected summer travel spend being reported at $3,427. So that looks great for mid-tier and value position destinations. So not necessarily looking for a budget trip, not necessarily all chasing luxury. And then, when we ask what's keeping travelers from traveling as much as they would otherwise prefer to, the top answers, though, are all financial, that it's too expensive, their own financial situation, airfare is expensive. Those are the top three. So the value case, and we'll talk a lot this session about off-season and dispersal, that may remove some of these friction points for travelers. Okay, so now that you all understand how travelers are feeling, let's talk about what actually gets them out the door and where they decide to navigate to. And these are some of the most important insights from the research. Travelers' passions tell destinations which experiences to lead with, while travelers' motivations for their trips reveal what destinations need to deliver to win visitors. Destinations don't just compete on where, they're competing on which version of the traveler's identity that they're enabling. And just note, there may be no greater predictor of travel passions and destination aspiration than age or life stage. So first, let's hear from real travelers we recently interviewed here at Future Partners about what destinations are exciting them right now. And for you all, look for gems and patterns that may apply to your destination.
So when it comes to travel destinations, I'm always excited about tropical ones, but I would say specifically right now, I'm most excited about Japan. It's a place that I have never been to. I find the culture very fascinating. It's very clean, organized, and sushi is my favorite cuisine. So that's definitely my top choice for the next travel vacation.
I would really like to visit maybe the Caribbean islands or parts of Asia like the Maldives. I honestly, as much as I want to visit locations in the Middle East, I don't think those are safe for now with regards to some other personal concerns. Even in the US, anything that's coastal and close to the coastal areas is a little risk. I understand Caribbean is still very close to the US. So given the current situation, I would prefer maybe Maldives, maybe Bali, Jakarta, some area that is far from the given current conflict area.
I have two trips planned right now, and the first one is going to be to the Houston Rodeo next week, so I'm really excited about that. And the second trip that I have planned that I'm looking forward to is going to be in Nashville to go look at Dollywood and explore a lot of the national monuments that they have within the city, and want to see a lot of those destinations, tourist areas that I definitely want to look forward to checking out soon.
I would say with everything happening around the world, any place that's peaceful. When I say peaceful, I mean places like, let's say, Bali, Cambodia, Thailand, places that are popularized and really influential in what we perceive to be as just a nice, peaceful, middle of the road type experience. Obviously it's nice in terms of the culture and affordability and all that, but just places where you feel like you can really, really get away.
All right, I agree with him on peace. All right, when we look at why travelers took their most recent overnight trip, the top 3 reasons are visiting friends and family, relaxation, and escaping the stress of daily life. So people are traveling because they need a break and they want to connect with people they love. That hasn't changed. But just a reminder, those are really powerful emotional drivers that you have a way to speak to in your own unique way. And I think this is fantastic for the industry overall. Travel is widely used by people to support their overall well-being. 68.2% of American travelers say supporting their physical, mental, or spiritual well-being is extremely or very important to their leisure trips. It's not some kind of niche wellness segment anymore. This is a mainstream travel motivation. And just on the destination side, if you haven't thought through how you sort of speak to travel being used as supporting of our well-being, this data is certainly telling you it's time for you to do so. And it's not just aspirational, it is behavioral. Over 40%, 43.7% say they often or always plan trips specifically to support their well-being. And another 35% say they do that sometimes. It's really a massive share of our traveling market that are actively structuring their itineraries to support, again, travel as a wellness exercise. Here's a fun one. Nearly 3/4 of travelers describe themselves as at least moderately adventurous, and only 7% say they're not adventurous at all. A lot of people think that they are explorers. So there's a strategic implication here that even if your most mainstream visitor is open to a little discovery, you do need to make it feel accessible to them. But if you're thinking adventurous translates to spontaneity for trips, know that spontaneity is actually pretty rare. Only 17% of travelers frequently or very frequently take spontaneous trips. Most people plan. Of course, there's a last-minute travel market, but it's not the dominant behavior. This chart is showing you the percent of travelers that are extremely or highly passionate about several different hobbies and pursuits. Food and cuisine tops the list at 54% by a mile. Then we have historical sites and international travel that round out the top 3. Underneath that, hiking, fitness and wellness, art museums, wine, music festival. So each of these is a hook for your destination if you understand what your prospective travelers are really passionate about. And that understanding is really foundational for effective destination positioning. But really, really importantly, for using these insights, these travel passions are not random. They actually follow quite a generational arc. So when we segment travelers' passions by generation, there are really stark differences, as you can imagine. Gen Z is all about identity and nightlife, concerts, fashion, photography. Millennials start to move into more that balance and experience. So we see theme parks come in, fitness, outdoors. Gen X, we summarize it as like, how do these things fit my busy life? But that's when we start to see wine come up, art, skiing, if they can afford it. Boomers are looking for more depth. So we see their passions start to shrink, but more into like deep ones. So history, museums, theater. But cutting across every generation, it's food and cuisine. It's the only truly universal passion across generations, from 45% to 58% saying that they're interested across all 4 generations. So if you're not sure where to start, food is definitely a good place. So let's look at what travelers are telling us about where they are thinking of going for upcoming travel. For summer specifically, when we ask travelers the destinations they are heading to, beach and coastal destinations lead, no surprise there. Large cities, though, come in at second, and then state and national parks, those are at 29%. Mountain, small towns, and lake destinations round out really a diverse set. So not necessarily a single summer story. You see multiple destinations are generating strong interest simultaneously. When you look at the motivations behind those, it's led by relaxation, visiting friends and family, and escaping daily stress. And exploration, nature, culture, and self-care all follow. And then when summer travelers tell us what specific experiences they're prioritizing, we see water top the list at 41%, and that's followed by local food scene and scenic drives and state and national parks. Then there's that third cluster around museums, hidden gems, and shopping. But looking at the experiences being prioritized by the types of destinations that they are visiting, here's a little cheat sheet for you. So beach destination travelers are primarily focused on water and wellness. Our city travelers, they are seeking food, museums, festivals, and nightlife. Our nature-based destination choosers, they want scenic drives and parks. And our small town goers are most apt towards hidden gems and kid-friendliness. And then here's something that can't be ignored in 2026. Risk perceptions matter. So when we ask about what's coming into play with destination choices right now, we see excessive heat as a top concern, followed by crowding and political unrest. And we have wildfires and hurricanes underneath that, as just above 1 in 5. So these aren't hypotheticals. They are actually active factors in where people are choosing to go this summer. But the risk concerns are not uniform. They do vary by destination type. So our beach travelers, they're worried most about heat and hurricanes. Our city travelers are most concerned about crowds and political and social issues. Our nature travelers are focused on wildfires at 3 times the rate of someone that's headed to a city this summer. Small town travelers have the lowest overall risk sensitivity. So nothing jumping out relative to others near them. So it is important that you know what your target traveler is worried about and address it. And we see that often, if it's subtle, that's fine. And this graphic summarizes the motivations, priorities, and key concerns that I all showed you all together by each of those 4 primary destination types in the coming month. So beach travelers are really asking, is this easy, relaxing, stress-free? City travelers, how much can I do, see, and experience? Our nature travelers, is this unique, authentic, and worth the effort? And our small town travelers, is this simple, enjoyable, and a little off the radar? So those are the questions that your marketing will need to answer. And another thing to think about in your destination positioning strategy, Americans still are generally preferring air travel over road trips. So that is worth noting in your strategies. And then when it comes to where they're staying, it's the full service 3 or 4-star hotels that are really dominating. Underneath that are budget and Airbnb type properties, and then luxury coming in at just below 1 in 5. All right, so let's talk about where people actually want to go. So I'm going to start with domestic. New York leads all domestic destinations right now, followed by Florida and Las Vegas, and then California, Chicago, and Hawaii round out the top 6. So these are the most aspirational destinations. They obviously command an outsized mind share, but even if you're not on the list, your takeaway is that this is who you're competing with in attention. These destinations, we just acknowledge they have a head start. So it's your inspiration to be more smarter, more strategic, use the insights that we're sharing with you today to do that. Quick look back to 2016, Las Vegas led, followed by New York City right on its tail. Florida was fourth. So a decade later, we see New York at the top spot. Florida has risen, but the top tier looks pretty similar. So again, you just have to use this data to acknowledge that there's a lot of mind share by these destinations and just market smarter. So here's a generational breakdown of the top most aspired destinations. And again, this is the single biggest driver of destination aspiration. So knowing which generations are your core audience is going to be really critical. And so we see Gen Z, really urban, high energy status destinations. New York is outsized for them. Millennials, balanced, but still experience led. We see them over indexing for Las Vegas. For Gen X, it's more of that transition from the younger to the older. We see Orlando being a skew for Gen X, and then boomers selective and lower volume, so gravitating to, again, more history and depth. Income also importantly shapes aspiration. Las Vegas is appealing broadly across income levels. Hawaii and New York are skewing more heavily towards higher incomes. Florida and Texas actually index somewhat higher for our lower income travelers. So just a reminder that understanding the income profile of your aspirational visitor will also tell you a lot about how to market and position. So let me talk about a couple other demand drivers on the radar. World Cup, we've got almost a quarter saying they're interested in traveling for World Cup. That's a large volume of people. It is a demand driver for host cities and beyond. We see LA leading, followed by New York and Miami. Interesting thing here, though, we're seeing the other North American cities outside the U.S. generate lesser interest. So American travelers interested in World Cup look like they're primarily staying here. Looking at Route 66, it's celebrating its 100th anniversary. We have 44.4% of travelers saying they're interested in traveling for Route 66 events. And then we see California and Arizona leading the destinations for that, followed by Texas and New Mexico. And then America 250, 28.2% say they want to travel for America 250. These travelers are demographically similar to other travelers that do skew towards younger families and higher education. Okay, looking outside the US, this is the headline number. 47.8% of American travelers say they're likely or very likely to travel outside the US on a trip in the next 12 months. That's almost 1 in 2 travelers. So this is not a niche, it's half of who you're competing with. So let's look at where they want to go. Actually, before I do that, though, let's look at this pattern. Okay, in early 2022, international travel intent was around 30%, and now, again, it's at essentially 49% and been holding that range for a year. And just to show you how incredible that change is, going back to 2016, 78% of American travelers hadn't left the U.S. in the prior year. They had not taken an international trip. It was really a minority segment, and now the math has flipped. So we really see a globalization of American travelers' destination ambitions, and it is probably one of the most significant shifts in the last few years. So looking at where they want to go, we see Italy top the international wish list. It's quite ahead, actually, of second place, Canada, then Mexico and the UK, and then Japan, and then other European destinations. As you might have heard, Japan, that has been the biggest rise over the past few years, going from outside the top 10 to where it sits now. Okay, so I will wrap up here with where destination decisions get influenced and then do the profile of off-season and dispersal travelers. Okay, so what you'll see here is that where travelers discover destinations, it's shifted. It's not entirely to new resources, but AI is the only planning tool growing across every market. So quick look back to 2016, as you imagine, very different from now. We look at the resources travelers are turning to for inspiration. Just know for planning windows, for a domestic week-long vacation, the mean now for planning that is 11.3 weeks. There is some meaningful early travel segments, but really it's more of a compressed window, so you really got this always on pressure. When we ask travelers where they'd be most receptive to destination marketing right now, we see online search still topping the list, closely followed by email campaigns, and then other online content like articles and blogs. And then we have Facebook, Instagram, and streaming video rounding out that top set. Here's social media as a destination inspiration source over the last several years. Facebook has declined from its peak. Instagram has grown. TikTok has risen. X has remained flat. Pinterest has also remained flat. So Instagram is where there's growth, and TikTok is where there's growth, especially around younger travelers. All right, AI. 26.3% have used AI tools specifically to help plan or prepare for their trips in the last year. So that's more than 1 in 4. And that actually increases with some of the higher value segments, which I'll show you shortly. But looking at by where these people are going, the types of destinations, we do see some shifts in how they get inspiration and plan trips. So just really quickly, our beach travelers, it's more of a low effort inspiration, low friction. So they are getting inspired by friends and beautiful photos on Instagram. Our city travelers, opposite. Lots of information, lots of seeking for inspiration. They want to know everything before they go, what's trending, where to go, what neighborhoods. So you'll see those resources rise up for them. And then for our nature and small town travelers, it's more deliberate, longer form content. The hidden gem content is really going to help them spark that trip. And so we see a lot like blogs and actually DMO resources outperform here. Okay, so I'll close with a profile of our off-season and dispersal travelers. It has direct strategic value for many of you. So the definitions, off-season travelers are those who took at least one overnight leisure trip during the off-season in the past year. But do know that 86% of those travelers also did travel during peak season. So it doesn't mean they're like in your marketing that you won't reach them if you're trying to reach a more summer or peak audience. Our dispersal travelers are those who have visited lesser known destinations or attractions for at least some part of their trip in the last 2 years. So off-season and dispersal travelers, higher household incomes. They have a lot more disposable income to which to devote to their travel. They are more likely to frequently take spontaneous trips. They are more adventurous at nearly 3 times the rate of other travelers. Looking at what motivated their most recent overnight trip, they are over-indexing on escaping stress, self-care, and experiences for their children. They are also more likely to see travel as key to holistic wellness. They plan trips, about more than half of them do, to specifically support their well-being. And these are air travelers. Dispersal travelers are more likely to cite the cost of airfare as a travel barrier. Meanwhile, our off-season travelers are most likely to report crowding as a barrier. They are looking at international travel at a much higher rate, so again, more competitive there. And then usage of AI tools for trip planning is significantly higher amongst these, but they also do still like their print. So in closing, demand is strong, but the competition for it has never been fiercer. Destinations compete on identity, not just simply experiences. Generation and life stage is amongst the greatest predictors of where travelers want to go. And our high value and off-season and dispersal travelers are actively looking for something worth discovering that supports their wellness. And then, if you don't know already, AI discoverability is absolutely critical to you going forward. Everything we shared today is accessible in our The State of the American Traveler Insights Explorer tool. So if you want to look at more specific insights to your destination, we are likely tracking you in that, and you can sign up for a trial of that. And then just a reminder, latest update, April 8th. So please join us. And I will hand it back over to you, Chris.
Very good. Thanks. A tremendous amount of information and insights there, Erin. Thanks so much. Just a quick highlight, the high value traveler research. So Erin just showed some hot off the press insights around off-season and dispersal US travelers. That's part of a far larger initiative that Miles, with our partners at Future Partners, Purdue University's Responsible Travel Lab, and other partners, is undertaking to better understand these travelers and how to reach and engage with this high value audience, the people who come in the off season or disperse out. So very quickly, we're going to run a poll. So tell us the length of the off season in your destination. Is it 1 month or less? Is it just 2 or 3, 4 months? Or one of the longer selections? And obviously off season is when visitor numbers are down significantly. Perhaps some of your businesses have cut back or even closed over that period. And it's obviously an opportunity to grow visitor numbers in that period. So let's wrap it up and have a quick look at the results. So you can see the significant majority, almost 2/3, said you have an off season in the sort of 2 to 4 months range, with slightly smaller percentages across others. So we're going to jump into our destination panel now, get a short presentation from each of our 3 destination leaders, Carol Ann, Heath, and Racine. Starting with you, Carol Ann, in terms of Maine, how do you think about off-season or dispersal marketing?
Great, Chris. Thanks so much. Really excited to participate today and share some of our work. So jumping right into it, we're actually going to look back 5 years ago, where in 2021, we partnered with Coraggio Group to develop a strategic destination management plan. Initial work from the destination management plan uncovered a research and database need to make some shifts. Primarily, we heard from people across the state that clearly there was a need to balance resident quality of life with visitor experience. And a number of shifts came out of that plan and insights. But one big one was a shift in our mission. And the focus on the shift in the mission was to elevate it, focusing again more on that triple bottom line. So for the shift in mission, we required a shift in marketing. We extended into fall and winter shoulder seasons. We've just launched a spring campaign for the first time this year, expanded our reach, which was supported by budget and also the ability to be always on. So looking at fly markets and expanded drive markets, ensuring a balance between promotion of locations and experiences through our paid and earned media. The content partnerships were really important for deeper storytelling and a much richer deep dive into the destination. And then obviously focusing on diversifying our audience. So from that, the shift in management, shift in mission also looked at reworking measures of success. So traditionally, I think for many of us, that visitor number was critically important, but in changing the marketing strategy, we had to think of new ways of measuring success. And some of those were really using the DMP to align the new measurement framework, and specifically looking at length of stay per visitor spend, again, that diversity of visitation, and to the point of a lot of this dispersion and moving people regionally through the state in other areas that were less visited, and then looking at the 3 seasons that were not as strong as our summer season. As we move from there, the really big focus on this, and Erin touched on a lot of this, is looking at this values-aligned traveler. So how do we boil it down specifically to the people who are seeking the most authentic experiences that Maine can offer, and really targeting them very deliberately? And that has helped a lot in focusing on an evolution of our brand. So we've been on this ambitious journey to expand Maine's reach, introducing the state and the rich culture to new audiences. So we were able to really work on evolving our brand platform, focusing on emotional resonance. So how does this speak to our values of community, resilience, authenticity, craftsmanship, and this close bond we all have with nature? And also shifting to a more global appeal in the sense of the fact that this resonates with locals as much as it resonates with the visitors drawn to genuine transformative experiences. So this just gives a bit of a flavor of where we've gone with that brand platform.
This is Maine, a place where landscapes don't just exist, they live and breathe. They transform all who encounter them, chiseled by the power of the elements and the test of time. Here, resilience is a way of life, and ingenuity, it's our marching song. This is a declaration of pride for those who call this place home, and for those drawn to its beauty, its spirit, its soul.
So again, that captures a small bit of the essence of the Forged by Nature brand platform. And by going through the DMP process, we've been able to grow visitation in what was historically shoulder season. We've been able to see increase in visitor spend. We've seen dispersal of visitors throughout Maine at different times of the year and across different geographies. And we've really been able to just get into touching and reaching those value-aligned travelers through storytelling that resonates. I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Carol Ann. Some really powerful visuals there. So that's a state. Let's jump right down to a truly unique city. And for a perspective on off-season marketing, let's go to Greenville and Heath.
Well, thank you, Chris. And the title of our presentation is probably limiting in what we really did, because it was well beyond marketing, as you'll see in the next couple of slides here. But if I would have answered the poll question earlier, I would say Greenville's probably in the 2.5 month shoulder season. The back half of December and then January and February are typically softer for us. And so as we were experiencing those shoulder periods, we ask ourselves how, the traditional question was, how do we spur more demand into those periods of time? Or how do we reallocate resources off sort of over tourism or peak periods into these? And what we found was this question that I think Aaron even touched on a little bit is about value and value at all price points, right? Not value in terms of cost savings, but at all price points. How are you offering value as a destination and people's time, money, and energy? And so do we have the product that's worth traveling just after everybody's been busy with holidays and school closures or whatever it is? And so, this is really what we ask ourselves is how can we help someone choose Greenville during this moment of our year? And I've got a couple of examples for you that we've done over the last 2 or 3 winter times. And the first was in the winter of 2023, I think. 2023. And it was the Home Alone experience. And for those who have seen Home Alone 1 or 2, particularly 2, you know the scene where Kevin is by himself as a young kid in New York City, staying at the Plaza Hotel. And so what we found was we've got, the role of a DMO is not just promoting the destination. We're the conduit by which prospective visitors and other people find our small businesses. And we've got a lot of great small businesses. But sometimes by themselves, they're not worth the trip. But together, they make an experience that's worth it. And so we have a hotel that just celebrated its 100-year birthday in the Westin Poinsett, an incredible ice cream shop, a transportation company that could offer limos, a local pizza shop, a toy store, and then a souvenir with the turtle doves. And so all of that packaged in this really incredible way. And to be honest with you, we really did it as a PR initiative. We really just wanted to drum up interest in our destination during during a slower time that people might be talking about it. But what we found was that there was incredible demand for this kind of experience. We saw 22,000 people go to this particular part of our website. I heard anecdotes of mothers taking their children out of school on a Wednesday because they couldn't book it on a Saturday, and traveling in to make sure that they experienced it. At checkout, they were trying to make their reservation for the following year. And the bottleneck was really that there's only so many limos that we have in Greenville, and we were, basically using the limos to showcase the movie and eat the pizza. So there were only like 80 spots over the course of a 2-week period that we could actually sell, but we had 8,800 people go to the reservations platform from our website looking to book the experience. And so I think you see at the very bottom there, our key takeaway was we're not showing more generic sort of winter B-roll or whatever of our destination. We gave them a really intentional reason to come, and even if we only had so many spots available, it created interest in what we had as a destination. The following year, and maybe we can play the video if there's a video first, but the following year, we're trying to figure out how do we continue to grow this. And so for some of you who have young children, you might be familiar with what a Yes Day is. And it's basically a 24-hour period where us parents have to tag along and do whatever it is that the kids want to do. Some of us might say that seems like every day, but we were really intentional, similarly with the Home Alone experience, in working with local attractions and local amenities and our hotels that had indoor pools and other kinds of things, where we could make it really easy for the family to plan. And so we were not only promoting this, but we were sort of helping them plan and build their itinerary and build their experience. Whereas Home Alone, we didn't really have any paid media behind it. It was really a PR effort. We did work with some micro influencers in some of our closest feeder markets, mom influencers. We did some other sort of small paid behind this. Another one of our hotels had to discontinue because demand was so high that they couldn't continue to operationally support it. So it became, during this time of our year, the number one source of lodging referrals in our entire destination, which was really interesting. And then I'll just sort of wrap on the final slide here. What's been really interesting for me is that we started this as trying to solve a problem of shoulder season demand. And what I think we learned from it is really how we can manage the destination more as a whole. And so it's not that our role is not just in promotion, but it's product development. It's helped us understand that even in the peak times of year where our job is less about more demand and how do we yield rate with higher quality visitor that might stay longer and spend more and do more of our activities. Our hotels are just the way they spend the night in our market. That we've got to find those places to eat and those things to do and those experiences that make the trip overall worthwhile. I would even say, as being sort of the singular destination that probably focuses on meetings and events, is that's even started to bleed a bit into our group strategy as well, is that we're not simply interested in shoving more group business into our destination all the time, is that we're really looking for those pockets of demand where group helps, but we're not shoving group demand in where we're already full or where we already have peak times. And so here, as the key takeaway is the shoulder season isn't a marketing challenge, it's a product opportunity. What I think we've learned from it the most is that all year round, whether it's peak times where we're having to add value to yield higher rate, or whether it's the shoulder season where we're looking for ways to drum up interest in our destination and we've got to create the product, it's giving us a unique challenge that our team's been excited to tackle.
Very good. So we've looked at a state, we've looked at a city. Let's now go to a region of another truly wonderful destination, Montana's glacier country. And Racine, how do you think about off-season and dispersal marketing for your part of the United States?
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk about that. I think I want to just lay the groundwork on where we're at and kind of some of the challenges that we face. Western Montana's Glacier Country is a regional destination where dispersal isn't just a campaign tactic, it's actually a necessity. The geography really demands it, and the communities really depend on it. In terms of where we're located, Montana is that fourth largest state in the country where we have just over 1 million residents total. The scale and the geographic dispersal are inherent challenges for destination development here. Travel and visitor spending is one of the top 2 industries in the state, with roughly 13 million non-resident visitors generating approximately 5 billion in our communities annually. And Glacier Country represents about 1/3 of all of that. We sit in the northwest corner, bordered by Canada to the north and Idaho to the west, where international and domestic drive markets intersect. So that's really what kind of lays the groundwork for the regional makeup and such. We have 8 counties, 75 communities, 9 travel corridors, and we have Glacier National Park and Flathead Lake that really anchor the region. And when one destination commands that kind of attention and one season kind of dominates it, smaller communities and lesser known corridors just get left behind. In 2016, we made a deliberate shift away from leading with the park and toward telling that story of the whole region. Shoulder seasons, year-round experiences, and places most visitors really never find. And that decision has shaped everything that we've done, including our shift to a destination stewardship organization with a formal plan and mission shift in 2022. So now on to the campaign, kind of an example of a campaign that we've run. Last summer, partners were all across the region were telling us that rural communities were being bypassed. Bookings were soft, foot traffic was down, and we really didn't need research report to really respond. 3 weeks later, after listening to their stories, we had a live shoulder season micro campaign that we were able to launch. We had 8 curated weekend getaways, 1 in each of our county, built around experiences Montanans know and love, but may have not made time for recently. And what was primarily driving that softness wasn't just one thing. Economic pressures on discretionary travel, broader shifts in visitor demand, and declining visitation were all converging at once. And our northernmost counties really felt that last one most acutely. Turning to Montana residents as our primary drive market was the logical response for us in this situation. This campaign was targeted statewide across paid social, digital display, and radio. And for such a short-term micro campaign, we were able to get 1.3 million impressions for a total budget of $7,600. We had over 800 entries into the giveaway, and we had about a 52% average cost per click. So in terms of campaign performance, it was great. But really, the reason why it worked was because it was the right message to the right audience at the right time. And participating businesses were actually thrilled that we're able to respond so quickly. The spotlight felt authentic, locally grounded, and residents who explore their own region don't just spend money. They talk about it, they share it, and they bring people back with them. And it's that kind of advocacy that we feel for a regional destination organization really has value well beyond a single campaign. But again, this is just a tiny example of a little responsive campaign versus some of the much larger initiatives that we do on a regular basis.
Thanks so much, Racine. So 3 wonderful examples from a region, a city, and a state. We're tight on time, so I'll just get a quick comment from each of you about thinking about the spring, the next few months, given what's going on in the world, gas price, volatility, uncertainty, etc. How are you thinking about changing or not changing your marketing, both for the off season and for the rest of the year? So starting with you, Caroline.
Thanks, Chris. I mean, at this point, we haven't made a lot of shifts to the strategy and the campaigns themselves. Again, the spring campaign was new for us, and that was intentional in number one, more off-season, but also even having the opportunity to target some last-minute travel and maybe a little bit deeper travel, because there aren't as many places across the state of Maine that you would visit in the spring. So spending more time in one spot. And then also just prepping people to start thinking about summer earlier. So, it's not just wait until the summer kind of thing. But we are watching everything very carefully, as I'm sure everyone is, just to see, but we're held quite steady at this point.
Very good. What about you, Heath?
Yeah, we were already going into 2026 with what I would call sort of a dual strategy from an economic standpoint. I mean, a lot of the economic research that you've seen is that some of the middle and lower income households have been strained a bit more than others, where the belts have been tightened a little more. And so we really had this idea going into 2026 around dual messaging, where we've got opportunities at the high end to really continue to push luxury and upscale kind of experiences. The households that were continuing to spend discretionary income while finding that product opportunity at maybe some of the more value prices. I think what's happening right now, which is causing gas prices to shock, is just maybe exacerbating that. We have not shifted strategy yet, but it's something that we're focused on. My sense is for households that were already tight on discretionary income, another $1 or $1.50 per gallon gas is only going to make things more difficult. Everything that's got to go on a truck is going to be more expensive in the months to come. And so it's something that we're keeping an eye on. It might mean that we got to pull some of our resources more proximate so that we can influence some of that shorter distance automobile travel compared to some of the longer travel destinations.
Thank you, Heath. And a quick final comment from you, Racine.
Thank you. We actually did something a little interesting going into this winter, in that we had a pocket campaign that was a low snow campaign. We wanted to make sure that if things were just not panning out how we wanted to in terms of level of snow, that we were able to launch something very quickly, which we did. We did have to pull that out. But that leads us into our spring campaign, which is very much on par. It's one of the aside from our winter, it's our largest campaign, and we want to make sure that we're filling in the spring season and kind of preloading people into the funnel to make sure that we're really getting dispersion all throughout the region, because our winter really kind of set us up for some lower numbers, and we need to help make up for that.
Thanks so much. And a special thanks to our panelists today for sharing some really powerful insights and examples. Thanks to Erin. We'll just wrap it up with a couple of final reminders. All the research slides, the webinar recording, and other resources will be sent out via an email tomorrow to everyone who registered for today. And then a quick reminder of our quarterly special editions. So we do these 4 times a year. We've been doing it for almost 20 years with future partners, and where our technology trends edition will be on June 2nd. You can see our traveler segments edition September, and our 4th quarterly edition, we're just finalizing the topic. That will be November 3rd. So please pre-register for those. Thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Erin, and thank you to everybody who joined us today. We look forward to catching up with you soon. Have a great rest of your day.